Hey everyone. For those of you that have been following my sarcoma journey, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all the support that you've all given myself and my family. If you remember my last update in week 14, I talked about doing an interview with an organization called The Patient Story. So that has come out, and I provided a link for you, but check it out. They're a really good organization. They provide resources for people going through cancer or their families. So check it out at thepatientstory.com. All right, a lot has happened over the last 4 weeks or so, and I wish I could say it was a little easier than what it was, but it was a pretty challenging time for me. I apologize that I didn't provide any more updates. It's been a while, but I just couldn't. I was not in a position to do that. After we left off with week 14, we talked about unrest and some of the challenges leading up to and going through that first surgery. Well, I can tell you that that was just the first surgery. I actually had to have another one as well. So my first surgery was on March 21st. It took me a couple weeks to get through that, and I was doing pretty well. April 3rd came around. It was my post-op appointment. I got to be honest, I got blindsided a bit. My doctor had told me that they didn't get it all, that the tests came back and they didn't get it all, and I needed to have a second surgery. The first surgery was a lot less invasive, and I knew that, okay, I'm going to have the big one, the big surgery. I was not looking forward to that. I needed to have the surgery fairly quickly. And so 5 days later, on Tuesday, on April 8th, I went into the hospital and had my second surgery. And it was a long month after that. It was nothing like the first surgery, way more invasive, way more painful. You know, one of the themes that my wife and I have taught the kids that have come through our home is that you can do hard things. You can do hard things. And I truly believe that. But one thing I've noticed is that the better we're prepared to do hard things, the more we expect ourselves to do hard things, the less we're going to get blindsided when we do or when we have to go through those hard things. And that's something that I experienced over this past month. I did get blindsided a little bit. I wasn't expecting what I was about to go through over the next month. So I went into my surgery on April 8th, and I woke up, and it was different than the first time I woke up in the first surgery. I woke up after the first surgery, and it's like, I was woozy and I was numb. I felt fine, and everything was good. The second surgery, I woke up in pain, a lot of pain. My leg was throbbing, and I couldn't believe how painful it was right off the bat. And to make a long story short, that pain didn't go away for weeks. So there I was laying in my hospital bed, and I was there for 5 days. And it was the longest 5 days probably of my life, at least from a standpoint of physical health and pain. I was being given drugs, around the clock. And even with that, it was one struggle after another, trying to get comfortable, trying to find some kind of relief. And it was hard. It was way harder than I thought it was going to be. I just wasn't ready for it. Some of you wanted to see what my leg looks like after the surgery, so I do have some pictures for you. Some of you might think this is kind of gross, but here for the next 5 seconds or so, I'm going to flash some pictures up on the screen that are kind of the timeline. So if you get a little squeamish, just close your eyes and until we get through this. But anyway, there you go. Starting from the beginning all the way to the end, those are pictures of my pretty gross looking leg. Anyway, one certainty in life is that we're all going to suffer. The question is whether our suffering is going to count for anything or if it's just going to go to waste. Our theme for today is finding purpose in pain. And that's hard to do because so much pain just seems to be unnecessary. And I think there is a kind of pain that's very unnecessary, and we're wise to try to avoid that unnecessary pain. Nobody needs to suffer when the suffering isn't really going to help anything. But there is another kind of pain or suffering that's absolutely necessary to go through in order to get to a better place. a stronger place. We become more mature, we become more skilled, we become more knowledgeable, more resilient by facing resistance, by facing pain, by suffering and learning to work through things. That's so important if we want to become successful. Great people always pay a great price. No one can avoid the cost for greatness. When we're in the midst of suffering, we don't always see the value that we can gain from going through it. But I'll tell you, if I need to go into another season of battling cancer, which there's a decent chance I might have to, I know that I'm going to be stronger this time around. I'll be prepared for it this time around because I've already gone through it. I'm not going to be caught off guard. I'm not going to be blindsided this time. And because of that, I'll be able to handle even a bigger challenge. I also know that this experience that I've gone through over the last month has made me stronger. It didn't feel like it going through it. I felt like I was defeated. I felt weak. I felt like there was no way I could get through it. But the truth is I did get through it because I didn't have a choice. I needed to push through. And I'd love to tell you that I pushed through with courage or that I pushed through because of a sense of resilience, but that's not the case. For so much of that time, I just suffered through it. What I felt was in weakness, but got through it anyway. And so sometimes when we go through those trials, even if we're not looking to get stronger, we're just going to get stronger anyway. I don't think there's any shame for being weak in our faith or being weak in our toughness going through these times. Sometimes we need to reach out and get help from other people, and sometimes we're just going to look like a weenie. But when we go through these times and we don't avoid them, we're going to come out stronger for sure. I was preparing for this and I did a chat GPT search on this topic, and I came up with a few short terms or short little quips that I wanted to share with you. First is strength is always built through struggle. Comfort may protect you, but only hardship prepares you. The fire that scorches also purifies. When the fire doesn't quit, neither do I. And then this is kind of my favorite. We grow tougher by going through the tough stuff together. And I think that's a good illustration that if we really want to be prepared for suffering and hard times, or being sharpened, or be prepared for greatness that only comes through difficulty and being sharpened or being honed, then we need to put ourselves around people like that. People that are resilient, people that are strong and can get through tough times, people that will be there for you when you're going through a hard time. We really are the equivalent of the people that are around us. And we have a choice of who's around us. We can either move away from people that don't encourage us to be strong and courageous, and we can move towards people that will be there for us and will help us and teach us and stretch us and pull us and push us into some tougher times because they know that we need to experience that. So we have a choice. So think about that, whether it's your family, your friends, the job that you're in, your community. We have to put ourselves around the right people that's going to, allow us to go through the right amount of suffering, the necessary suffering, and also protect us from the unnecessary suffering of foolishness or whatever else it might be. There's a Bible verse that I've been thinking about over the last couple of weeks in the book of 1 Peter. In all this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you may have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. These have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. That's in 1 Peter chapter 1. And what this tells me is that there has to be something bigger than us that's worthy of suffering. If there's nothing worthy of our suffering, if there's not something bigger than us that we're going to suffer through, we're just not going to do it. If we don't have a greater purpose for our pain, what incentive will we have to endure any type of difficulty? And if we don't endure any type of great difficulty, how can we accomplish anything of great significance? Anyway, that's kind of what I've been thinking about over the last few weeks. Let me know some of the bigger struggles that you've had in suffering and where you've grown the most. I'd love to hear your comments. Thanks.